one day while I'm drinking.
You need a new sticker. That one's just...
Why? Which one?
It's not
Oh,
even...
yeah. Well, it's not mine. This is professional. This is very important sticker right there.
Wasn't that like your doctor or like physical therapy or something?
I don't even remember. Yep. Physical therapy.
It's just a white sticker now.
Womp,
with
womp,
some
womp.
green and black.
Yeah, but better. Ta-da! Where does this even go?
The
Goes to my
gram.
Instagram, to my gram. Anyway, what's up, people? Mike Frank with Christian Olson back again.
I am back.
Two Baltimorons coming to you guys from Baltimore, Maryland, talking about some real estate things. Today we're going to talk a little bit about home buyers versus sellers. Who's kind of winning? Who's got the upper hand? And what that means for you as you enter into the market. Changing it up a little bit today, we're going to be watching a video that Liv pulled down for us. Kind of wanted to see what's going on in the market, give a quick reaction. We're going to post it in here as well. Christian, you want to hit play on that?
Well, there goes Florida. Their housing bubble is bursting. Prices are coming down. Supply is surging. Just like Texas, I told you this a month ago. You thought I was nuts. When you add supply, prices come down. Both of these states were building like crazy. Multifamily, single family, townhomes. Now, if you look at Austin, a lot of what they were building was based on Tesla and Dell's expansion. New jobs, more people, need a place to live. But Tesla didn't hire at the rate they were hoping to. Then they had to make layoffs. Dell didn't expand like they were hoping as well. So now you have a ton of new products sitting there. If you look at interest rates, you have good credit, 30-year fixed, you're paying 7.6%. Not even if you have bad credit, but if you're below 700, you're paying 8%. So remember, if you want to sell something, the buyer has to qualify for the financing at these new interest rates. So if you're selling a house in, let's say where I live, California, and there's still 5 to 10 people putting offers in on that house, yeah, there's buyers. Your prices aren't really going to go anywhere. But if you need to sell in one of these markets where there's a bunch of supply sitting there, if the buyer doesn't qualify, the pressure is going to be on you, and you will eventually lower the price so that they do qualify to be able to sell it. And so in these markets where you're seeing building actually happen and now products sitting, you're seeing the correction. In the markets where it's hard to build, you're not really seeing movement at all.
I think there's quite a bit to diagnose there.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. I was, I don't know. The biggest thing here, first of all, who's he targeting? Like, who's he talking to in this conversation? Because I feel like that can be the first piece that people are missing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's talking to just... I think he's casting a very wide net.
I think he's
sellers.
casting a really wide net, trying to attract buyers, trying to talk to sellers. I think he's trying to give out information, but he's also like kind of focusing it on sellers. It took me a long time to figure out that he's in California.
So,
and why the fuck is
yeah.
he talking about Florida real estate? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about Florida real estate.
Yeah.
We get that question often when people are moving from Austin to Baltimore or from another market,
Well,
and
I
they
mean-
want to understand, like, oh, what do I do? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Like, some of the times we only get like a glimpse of these markets is when we're at an event like Tom Ferry,
Yeah.
or on our EXP masterminds that we have every Monday, and people are sharing some information. But it's very difficult for an agent in another state, unless granted it's like the DMV, where people who are licensed in Maryland
Right.
are working in DC or Virginia, right? But like this guy's in California chatting about Texas, chatting about Florida, and what's going on in their markets. It's very difficult, at least for me being in this industry, to 100% take his word on what's going on in another market. If I want that information directly, I'm going to go to one of my agents that I
Right.
know in that market and get
And
that.
to that point, like, let's say that this guy's licensed in California, he's licensed in Texas, he's licensed in Florida. The best quote unquote negotiation I ever did was a listing agent negotiating against herself for something that she claimed was required. And we knew, because we're, specialists here in Maryland, we knew that it was not a required thing, which when she forced the subject, we were
Yeah.
pushed into a
It was
position, and I said, hey, let's try and do something to benefit the buyer. And I
Yeah.
told the buyer, hey, it's going to benefit you by $4,000, but I just want you to be realistic. When they come back pushing on this, don't give me a hard time. This is stupid. I don't know why they would ask for this. Lo and behold, it cost the seller $4,000. And I don't believe that the seller knows, but when I researched the listing or the buyer's agent, no, it was the listing agent. I was the buyer's agent. When I researched the listing agent, she was an international sales specialist
Yeah,
here
I
in
remember
Maryland, DC, Virginia, and Texas. And I thought, how does Maryland, D.C., Virginia have anything to do with Texas?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they have a big team. Maybe they have a whole thing. Upon further review, they have 4 agents on their team.
Yeah.
So it's just challenging for me to watch something like this video and take real market content. The one thing that I heard, which is kind of abusive, to be honest with you, is sellers, if your house is priced too high for the market and there's other competition, your buyers, you need to drop the price until the buyers will qualify, because the buyers won't qualify. And that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, that did throw me off. I feel like buyers not qualifying is, I don't want to say not related in a way, but like
Right.
there's qualified buyers out there. I feel like almost everywhere we look, is that the only thing that we're taking into consideration?
I think as it goes to your marketing, right? You're a seller, you're looking to market your home, and you're hiring the agent that's going to market your home. Does it matter to you that you're in the newspaper? Right. And it might be very important to you, but perhaps the agent that's marketing your home is putting it in the local newspaper for your town, your community, or your neighborhood association. But perhaps the agent is just mass media marketing it to everyone in the metropolitan. And all of a sudden, we're now targeting a totally wide net for just any buyer to come along. Yeah, we're speaking to a buyer that can't qualify to buy your home because we haven't pre-qualified them with our marketing efforts. It's just, I don't know. And then he went into this whole perspective of as there are more houses in the market, prices come down. Well, we're so far away from that in our market. As more houses come into the market, the inflation softens, but we don't see prices coming down because a good listing agent says, hey, that house right down the street just sold for $880, which is a crazy number. But also, when I called the listing agent, the buyers were coming in. They were coming in from D.C. They had just sold their property for $300,000 more than they thought. They ended up turning around and spending $75,000 in cash that they weren't anticipating bringing to the closing table. So when I gave you a recommendation of $810,000 to $820,000, I still feel really confident that that's where we should price this home.
Now, do you think in Maryland let's just generalize Maryland all around the state, are there places where homes are being built at a very quick level and in volume as to where it is having some sort of impact maybe on that local community or town or city?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
And the biggest reason that I would say that is because unless you go to an area like Waldorf, okay? And if you don't know Waldorf, the thing to know that it's my perspective, so don't take it as gospel, but my perspective on Waldorf is lots of open land, lots of trees, and they're building large roadways, big communities, and major town centers. So every big community is essentially the same, right? Like, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, Waldorf, yeah. And they've been doing it for quite some time. Like, you look at White Plains, you look at parts of Brandywine, you look at Upper Marlboro and shit. Upper Marlboro is huge.
This is all Southern Maryland, by the way, in case you guys don't know.
Up in Bowie. I mean, 301 is wild.
It's wild. It's
they're
the
building
DC
so much,
suburb.
and
Because you cannot afford Virginia, but Maryland has such a bountiful amount of landscape, pun intended. And so even in your area, does what's happening in Waldorf, 20 minutes from your house, 30 minutes from your house, impact the neighborhood community in your neighborhood?
No, it doesn't impact, I think, Maryland as a whole.
Well, and the bigger, crazier thing, sorry to cut you off, but the crazier thing, the reason that my belief system is the way that it is that builders are finding little pockets to build in, not building new communities, right? So in Waldorf, a hyper-local community, if you have a house that was built in 2007, the new home community that's selling for the right price down the street is going to impact your value. But if you have a house built in 2007 in Canton, Baltimore, or in Lutherville, or in Owings Mills, the new home community that's down the street, we're going to be wildly different. We're going to be different sizes, shapes, colors. We're going to be bigger, smaller, 5 minutes closer to the highway, 5 minutes farther away. The new town center is going where they knock down a town center, not way out in the county. And so this quote unquote development that happens in other states, Florida, Texas, and otherwise, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's like a new town, not a 120 house neighborhood in the middle of everything else.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. There was something I had to say. It was on the tip of my fucking tongue, and I just lost it. It is the
hate
worst.
that.
It might come back to me.
Byproducts of Lyme disease for me, by the way.
Oh, I got it now.
Anyway.
Do I fucking have it?
Damn it.
God damn.
All right, well, while you think about that.
Forever, just fucking.
Liv wanted us to talk a little bit about current conditions of the market and what you guys need to know. Go. Don't forget it.
New construction properties.
Yes.
I don't really consider them to be a comp to a lot of homes or deals that we do unless it's in a new construction home that might still be building or was just finished or is clearly built in the last like 4 or 5 years, right? Like you take like Linda Jackson's home, for example, new construction home in Upper Marlboro, a couple minutes from Andrews Air Force Base. When I'm looking at comps for her property and we're going to price it, we're pricing it for that community and practically that community only, right? We're not taking any of the other homes that are a couple minutes down the way, completely different style, completely different neighborhood, and vice versa. If you were to take one of those homes from down the street, down the neighborhood that is not in a new construction community, even though it might be a townhouse, it's not going to be a comparable home. So I think that's also where like, hey, like our buyers here are probably going to be a little bit different than their buyers here. And then also the price ranges for those homes.
Okay, so Liv wanted us to address kind of the current state of the market and how it balances between the buyers and the sellers, especially with so much going on and so much change coming down the pike. It is freaking wild to me, the reaction of real estate agents and thus the public. But as it pertains to pricing, the number one thing that people need to pay attention to is whether we're in a buyer's market or we're in a seller's market, no matter what's going on, there are two different types of comps that we need to evaluate when we're pricing a home. And people focus on the comps as in the value of the house. Well, that's the first comparable value. But we also need to focus on the comp that is the competition in the marketplace. And an example of this would be Michael Jordan's home is on the market for $17 million. It's been on the market for 10 years, started at $29 million. Well, is that competition for a $17 million property here in Baltimore? And don't answer because I don't want you to answer incorrectly. Sorry. It could be. It could be. When you're evaluating property that's something like a famous baseball player's home or maybe a waterfront property that would be considered a second home designation, once you start to get into those higher prices, you have to evaluate against other unique high value homes such as Michael Jordan's home because it's what the buyer is considering, not comparable value. It's like people want to focus on what they want to focus on. And the difference between hiring the right agent and just any old agent is someone that understands the difference between comparable value as it pertains to a valuation that a bank is going to give you and competition, both comps, for what the buyer is going to see in the marketplace. An example of a comp would be a buyer can afford a detached single family home quarter of a mile away, or they could buy your townhome right here that is comparably conditioned to the other townhomes that will evaluate for $425,000, right? But they might choose to buy the competition.
I didn't even think about that, but I feel like that, like the Michael Jordan example is so like out of our...
I mean, it's out of our realm, but the way... So I learned about this because Cal Ripken sold his house. And I was like, how the fuck do you value a house like that? I mean, the dude had, let's just say it was 15 acres. He has a pond, like a full scale pond. He has a full baseball diamond. He's got a Olympic pool. He's got a basketball court. He's got all these cool things. And by the way, it's Cal Ripken's house in one of the most prominent communities. How the fuck do you value that?
Do you think the name Cal Ripken or the name Michael Jordan has any significant impact on the home's
first
resale?
Swedish basketball player ever, Michael Jordan. I don't think that the name necessarily has a value. This is equivalent to a seller selling a property that was featured in a magazine. Does that have value?
Well, right. That's what I'm asking. So we could take away it being Michael Jordan or Cal Ripken. These are just, I guess, examples of people selling these types of homes. So but the celebrity aspect of it doesn't really matter, but just comparing the property, you're saying that somebody that's looking here in Maryland with some, I don't know, that could be a second home in a
Right.
way, might also be looking in Ocean City, New Jersey.
Exactly.
And then when you're looking at that market, they're not far apart from each other. Maybe how long do you think it takes to get to Ocean City? Probably 3-4 hours.
From here to
If
Ocean
that.
City, Jersey, 3 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe
Yeah.
less than that. So like that could be a competing market for someone looking to
sure.
sell or even buy. their
Especially
second
for
home
so
here.
many of our families where we have transplants coming from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the northernmost states where A, housing is expensive, B, schooling is expensive, and C, there's just a dense population. A lot of people will come to Philadelphia, Baltimore, Richmond, DC, because they're just getting up and away from their parents. And all of a sudden, what do the parents want to do? Well, they want to downsize and buy something closer
Well,
to
I
their
also
kids.
think this area is much more affordable than what our surrounding areas are. I mean, you look at Virginia. and
Yeah,
the-
Virginia's
The
wild.
price point to get into a house in Virginia is through the roof. You look at the DC. I'd say the same thing about DC. How many $1 million row homes does DC have?
Yeah, I mean, DC has something that no other city has, though, which is wild. The architecture and the historic preservation. Like, I want to live in DC just because I want to live there. I don't want to be in DC because I hate the people. But I want to live in DC because of the value of it. It's just such a unique city. Whereas Baltimore is just a transient city. I think of it as people live and work here.
I had someone ask me, and it's funny because we're gonna get into the story later. There's a client that fired me. Like, why?
Who fired you?
This lady I was working with, dude, it's a whole thing.
Yoicks.
But she was asking like, why should I buy in Baltimore? And I was going into like, well, you'll see like this on average, like 3 to 5, maybe 6% appreciation, which we see generally in areas in Maryland, right? That's not out of the ordinary. But like I told her about maybe the taxes being lowered. But I also said like, here's why Baltimore and like that area is like going to be thriving and is thriving is because look at our location on the East Coast. To get to DC, to get to Virginia, to get to the Carolinas, to get to Philly, to get to Jersey, to get to New York. Shit, we could throw football to some of these places, right? Like it's right around the corner. So any businesses that are coming through, like people might work in Philly and live on the northern part of Maryland. People might work in Baltimore, and like I don't know, it's just a great location that creates what you said, a transient.
Yeah, I just think we're a very transient community. The other thing that drives value, and this is something that people don't think about as well, as you were talking about Baltimore, kind of circling it back to buyers versus sellers, what creates a buyer's market versus what creates a seller's market? Well, the ultimate value home would be a waterfront property in the right community with the right amenities, right? Priced appropriately, blah, 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 blah. But that waterfront property is geographically limited. There's only so much of it.
Yeah.
Whether you want more or not, there's only so much waterfront property. So by having those geographic limitations, it can also demand a different value. In Baltimore, we have things like on one side of a highway or another. In some of the counties, we have school districts that people want to focus on, or perhaps they want just the county benefits versus the municipality benefits. I mean, there's just so many thoughts that when it comes into a seller's advantage versus a buyer's advantage in the market, you can't just go off of the simplicity of, well, is it a seller's market? Well, yeah, it's a seller's market, but if you overprice your house and it looks like shit, it's going to sit on the market. It's not going to sell. It doesn't matter. You have to price your home to be competitive in the state of the market, regardless of the comparable home sales.
Yeah, I would agree.
Man, we went off topic, and I'm all about it. I love the idea of kind of broadcasting other people's content because it creates real questions.
Yeah.
So I want to know what questions you guys have. If you have a question, of course, comment below. Shoot us an email at info@frankoliverco.com. You can always hit us up on Instagram. But Christian, I'm curious. Share with me a story where a client has recently successfully navigated the market, and share with me a story where you've had struggles for clients.
So I guess we're going to do two stories. So successfully navigated the market.
Yep.
I guess a couple people come to mind. You look at Ben Coleman. He'd be a good example. Or if you look at Antonio Wallace. We'll jump to Ben, right? We were working together with him for quite some time to get his home buying certificate, to get his credit in line, to get everything with Trolley Tour, all of his grants and stuff approved. We were looking at houses for, honestly, probably a month, which, I would say isn't that long of a time, but it's not a long time, right? Because of just how the market here is.
Right.
But like we saw a couple properties, he had put in an offer, and actually one of them got accepted. But with the way that our market works in Baltimore, you look at some of the renovated homes, right? When homes get renovated, their tax assessment when they go through to close and title could be entirely different. This home that might have been a shell was, let's say the taxes on it a year were $200. That's annually. So we have to look at that going into some of these renovated homes. When you sign on the dotted line or when you go forward with this property, this tax rate is not going to be the same. So then after we knew that, we redesigned our approach to go for ones that wouldn't have this huge change in tax assessment, right? We wouldn't go for completely flipped or completely shelled out renovated properties. We would go for some that were up to date in a very good home, very good community. And we were able to look at some of those numbers and navigate, okay, this is a great property for Ben. And we were able to narrow down the first offer that we had put in on a I don't want to say brand new home, but that wasn't with that tax assessment. He's like, all right, we're going to have to be competitive. We're going to want to put in a strong offer here. He put above asking with an escalation clause and still got his inspection, still even got money from the seller. So sometimes I don't think it's like, it was a strategy to navigate the market, but I don't think it was this groundbreaking thing, because what Ben is going to do versus what Antonio Wallace is going to do is going to be entirely different. So could your strategy to get an offer accepted be waive your inspection? Of course. But Ben's situation was entirely different to get his offer accepted, right? We had to change our approach to the market entirely.
Well, I was going to ask, if you think about kind of the cycle that we had going out of 2022 and into 2023, where we thought we were going to be, robust and powerful, the market was going to be amazing, and interest rates started to climb. Then we came out of that climb, coming sort of quote unquote falling, quote unquote, to 5% or 5.5%. What experiences did you take? What experiences did you share with your buyers and or sellers that were able to help them adapt to that market? I mean, you mentioned waiving inspections, you mentioned other things, other contingencies that you could create, but what other experiences can you bring to the transaction that helped them navigate that process?
I mean, I think it might even just be sharing other experiences and giving people the lay of the land. You
mean in real time, like as you're showing property, like, hey, I've seen this before.
Essentially, right? Or when you go to write an offer. But I think we could even break it down, and this kind of will lead into one of my next stories, is like your agent just in general.
Story time.
I think there are people out here in this industry, lenders, real estate agents, inspectors, you name it, that will tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. And I think what you want to hear isn't going to get your offer accepted, but what you need to hear is going to help you get your offer accepted and get you to where you want to be and have the best transaction of your life.
Using the what you need to hear, share a story about a seller who utilized what you told them to maximize their profitability. And you're not allowed to use James Lehman, sorry. Not James.
Joe Wilson?
Joe Wilson.
Dude, what the fuck? That is the perfect story.
And we talk about Joe a lot. If you guys haven't heard about Joe came in, COVID market, sold his house, put in minor renovations, made a shit ton of money. Like we're talking $100,000 more than he would have sold it otherwise to an off-market buyer for cash. Anyway, continue.
Well, I think I would probably be able to speak more on buyers. I would like to defer the question to you. What would you have said, like, that you were able to paint a picture for your seller or set that expectation or experience and share information with them to better them off, like at the closing table? What would you say?
All right, I'll use a good one right now. This is easy. So, with the experience that we've garnered, with all the knowledge that we have, we know the best ways to market and sell homes. We can go out and get newspaper ads. We can go out and spend a ton of money on Google pay-per-click and other advertising campaigns to bring buyers along. But truthfully, what we know is that it's so much about marketing and positioning. And so we listed my wife's property for the absolute top of the market, $10,000 more than any other home had sold in the community.
I remember this.
And we wanted to target, is there a buyer out there that saw the value? We listed it for 2 or 3 weeks. We had no opportunities to sell. And so what we did, we strategically removed the property from the market. Now, my wife, behind closed doors, mad as shit at me. She's complaining. She's frustrated. She's asking me, when will the house go back to the market? What's going on? And I said, have patience. We will put it back on the market in time. What we'll do is we'll make a dramatic change to our listing approach. It's going to garner all the attention from the neighbors, the community members. It's going to garner all the attention from the real estate agents that I've been talking to since before we put your house on the market. By doing this, what we ended up doing, we put it back on the market. We garnered 2 offers in the first week, and we sold for more than any other house in the community. Did we get the full 625? No, but we sold for more than any other home in the community has done. And what we were able to do is we were able to feast on the current conditions of the market, the shortage of supply, what happened to that listing. It didn't go under contract. It just went away. Was it a flood? Was it, is the seller not selling anymore? Like, I really liked that house. I wanted it. I didn't jump fast enough. But if you just change the price, they're like, oh, well, okay. And they walk down the street. But you have to also understand the psychology of the buyer. And so that's a very real situation. Thank goodness my clients, my wife, trust me to kind of do my way. But we've been seeing that consistently across the board is its buyer psychology is actually impacting this process as a seller more than anything else, more than pricing, more than strategizing, more than marketing. It's really the buyer psychology.
If you can help people and buyers, I wouldn't even say help them because a lot of people in this market understand the demand, but if you can help them perceive more demand and more value and like create that question around the property, like you said, did it flood? Did it do this? Did it do that? I didn't even get a chance to put my offer in, blah, blah, blah. Came back to the market and you had even more demand than you had before.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is if I could put out like an APV to the world, there's a lot of change coming in August. And the change is going to be great. It's going to be good things. They're coming down the pike. If you don't already know, you need to be aligned with a real estate agent. You need to sign a brokerage agreement if you haven't already. Shame on you, right? You need to be working with somebody actively to get you into the properties that come on the market as quickly as possible. But that's not it. And that's where so many agents are stopping their educational process. What I wish that real estate would take a step back, take ourselves out of the situation and put the buyer and the seller more in control, more involved in the transaction so that they can be more transparent with what's going on. The challenge that we have is that we as real estate agents get so involved and we try and tell people that it's our marketing expertise that matters. And I do agree with that. But the truth of the matter is that it's our knowledge. It's our skill. Give everything to the buyers and sellers and they will still call you for the knowledge that you have.
Yeah.
The argument that I make to every real estate agent that asks this question is you can go to court for a speeding ticket and you can get off with nothing. Or you can go to court with a speeding ticket and you can get off with PBJ, probation before judgment, which is here in Maryland and I don't know about any other states.
You can get off with a sandwich.
Right? But in the end of the day, if you hire an attorney or you consult an attorney or you have someone represent you through the process, you're going to be that much better off than you would have been going by yourself. And if you don't believe that, the foundation is in all of the pudding that we have to show the data, the resources, and the analysis that homes that are sold for sale by owner without real estate agents present sell for 5 to 6% less than homes sold with the professional services of a real estate agent.
That's something I think a lot of people overlook, and not to keep that going on, but like the representation part.
Boom. That's my mic drop. I need like a boom, 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 boom.
People don't understand that like working with an agent is representation. Contracts can be a foreign language. People have never seen them before. It's very confusing. There are deadlines. There are things that you have to do on the buying and selling side that could very well cost you money. Going back to Mike's story earlier, where you were able to save your buyer $4,000 by this one document that this listing agent needed, right? So
and I want to clarify, okay? If you took me out of the situation, the listing agent would have had the buyer sign in the area that would not have benefited the buyer. We utilized our knowledge
that's what I'm saying.
to benefit the buyer.
Like
it wasn't just the document.
Having the right representation.
Exactly. So it's just important for people to know, like, oh, if you take Mike out, then, the buyer signs the document. It's the same thing. No, the reality is that my expertise is not only what got the document signed to benefit the buyer, but also educating the buyer that if something happens further down the road, this is going to come up. They're going to throw up red flags. I want you to be aware as a buyer, right?
Yeah.
Educating your clients is the most important value, especially on a seller side in today's world.
I got something funny to say.
Yeah.
Education got me fired this weekend.
Yikes. Is that woman?
Yeah. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah.
It happens all the time, I feel like.
Bro, we're still dealing with this guy, and I'm not going to throw anybody out there, but Heather's client, I'm now calling Heather's client all the time, partially because it makes me laugh. But you call him and you talk to him. Hey, are you looking for something? Have you found a specific neighborhood? Have you narrowed down your focus to a specific community? Are you ideally looking to buy a home in 2024? Have you figured out when the best time to move would be? And he says, no, why would I narrow my focus to a specific community? And you say something like, well, I just didn't know if you had a target area that you wanted to be in or a community that you'd prefer to live in or focus on, because this is such a personal thing that every person in their family is going to be different. And he goes, nah, my family, we could go anywhere. And I'm like, you just want to argue just to argue.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even want to talk about like, oh, I never thought about that. Or, hey, have you narrowed your search to a specific community? In that particular guy's situation, have you narrowed your focus to a specific house type?
Right.
He's like single family, multifamily, renovation loan, over my budget, with no cash out of pocket. I want to take advantage of grants, but I can't use grants if I use the renovation loan. It's like, bro, come on.
And I also think like a lot of that and the people that fit that just, again, are the ones that want you to tell them that they want to hear what they want to hear. They don't what they need to hear, right? So I've been working with this woman, again, not naming any names, but met her at a trolley tour probably over a year ago, and things really started to get serious probably back in October, November, and like really talking about her home search, like had a buyer consultation, talked about what she was looking for, when she wanted to do it, and all this. Then earlier this year, she had a very scary thing happen where a bullet had come through her window at her apartment, and she called me up the next day. She was obviously shaken by the whole thing, like, hey Christian, I need to get out of here, like, can you help me out? I want to get in line with these lenders, and I want to really start this process because I haven't had luck before. It's like, all right, now is the time. Let's talk to these people and like, let's get the ball rolling. She got her home buying certificate. She ended up chatting with a lender. We do recommend a few, even though we do have a preferred lender, Ryan Curley, but she ended up chatting with him. They didn't really hit it off, so I connected him to a couple others. She went another route. And I feel like as my job as an agent, when I see red flags or when I see something that is of concern, I want to bring them up to you. Especially, I don't want her going into a new property. Like, she's already stressed out where she's at. I don't want her going into a new property thinking at the end of the day when she's sitting out on the back porch, like, oh, I had a stressful experience, because it's going to live with her at that property forever.
Right.
So I feel like this is my job to share this information with her. Okay. Her loan officer was saying that she could use Smart Buy, which is a conventional loan program only. And she had done the loan estimate with FHA. And I was like, this isn't even possible. Right? Like, this is wrong. And then, like, the fees for the lender were much higher. And I would talk to the lenders like, hey, like, we're going out to see some property. If this person is interested in writing an offer.
There you go. I got you. I'm slow to the button.
Like, what are our financing? What does our finances look like? I see she's taking advantage of Smart Buy. What would her out of pocket be? Do you guys even service Live Baltimore programs? Because some credit unions or banks or other institutions do not. She wouldn't give me a clear answer.
Right.
And when you work with someone that you trust and that is here to set the expectation, tell you what you need to hear so you can get where you want to go, we have these numbers going in when we write the offer. So there's no doubt in our minds this is what we need to do.
We've had that challenge so many times with so many different clients. And I think the truest way to say it is, look, if you guys are listening to this, trying to go about buying a house, especially here in Baltimore, navigating the landscape can be challenging. But if you go outside into Pikesville, into Parkville, Aberdeen, Bel Air, Southern Maryland, there's so much to it. And what you want is hiring somebody that is a real professional that can help you through the process. It's not about showing property. That's a byproduct. But we've had clients that have used our services, that have listened to us, and we have one right now, and I am going to throw her out there. I'm going to give her a round of applause, too. Erica Dean is out there crushing her home buying experience. She's using all of our affiliates, our lender, our title company, our home inspector, our home warranty company, our home insurance company. And it's not that she's using all of our companies, so yay for her, but more by using the affiliated companies, we can keep the experience rolling in the right direction. We can give the knowledge, the pieces of information that you need. And in Erica's specific case, the home insurance guy asked for specific pieces of information that I didn't even know. And Erica said, well, do you think the home inspector would know? I said, that's a great idea. Let's reach out to him. And the home inspector said, oh yeah, I deal with this all the time from the home insurance guy. He needs these 5 things. And did he ask you for this? This is also what he's going to need. So then she went back to the home insurance guy and answered all 4 questions, plus the additional, or all 5 questions, plus the additional piece of information saved her an extra 5% on her entire home insurance. So it's just a matter of bringing all the pieces together manually by yourself. You may miss that.
Yeah.
But utilizing someone that's a specialist
and
in
the thing
an
is,
area
I'm telling
of
her,
expertise.
I'm telling her like, hey, like these are my concerns, and I don't want you to go into this new house and sitting out on the back porch every day, knowing this was a stressful process and things didn't go the way that you wanted. It's my job to give you that information, whether it's good or bad. right? Like I don't want a stressful experience, and neither do you. Right? And this is in your best interest, and I know it's a tough conversation to have. But then, going back to Smart Buy real quick, and one other thing we can wrap up. But like she has 2 types of student loans. I consulted with 2 of our preferred lenders just to confirm on how Smart Buy works. And you have to take the total amount of school loans that they have, and then they would have to be paid off. Well, if you combine her 2 student loans,
she's over the limit.
Over the limit,
right.
And her lender is telling her otherwise.
That is correct.
Right? And so then, again, I'm talking to the lender. She's not giving me a good answer. And so then now I have to start talking with this woman about like her financing and everything that we've seen so far. And then she's like, Christian, you should be telling me what programs I'm taking advantage of. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And this, all financing stuff that our lender should be covering. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm not the bank. I know these programs. I know how they work. But then when I give you this information, you're like fighting me on it. You know, like I'm trying to explain. And so again, it's like, I don't know. The education in this case got me fired, which was
yikes.
Quite crazy to say the least. And when she stopped talking with Ryan and started interviewing other lenders, she started interviewing me even more. Hey, Christian, what's your business look like? How long have you been in the industry? How long have you been doing this? Can you negotiate for me? Can you do this, that, and the other? And then come to find out her lender has not done a single transaction.
It's the
been
crime
licensed in 3 to 6
over education.
Yeah.
You think you know, so then you have no idea. Anyway, so I want to wrap up here. I want to tell you guys about a couple things going on in the community. We've got a couple of events happening in our area. I want you guys to make sure you take advantage of them. The 8th annual Pints and Brews Festival, Paws and Pints, something like that. Yeah. It's a home brewing festival in Annapolis run by the Annapolis Home Brewers Group. They do it down at Navy Marine Corps Stadium. It's a lot of fun. You can get out there with your dogs. You can try beer. There's a craft beer breweries that are out there as well. It's a lot of fun. I think it's like $10 to get out there and enjoy some time in our state's capital. If you don't know, Baltimore is not the capital of Maryland. And the night brunch at the zoo in Baltimore Zoo, it is the nighttime brunch. Baltimore Zoo has a ton of festivities throughout the summer, which we're going to talk about, capped off by Boo at the Zoo.
I've never been.
It's Brew at the Zoo, but it's Halloween time. Anyway, go on to the National Zoo website, baltimoreZoo.com, .org, .gov, .zoo. I have no idea. And take a look at that. Also, we have our investor meetup at the end of the month, and our next home buyer event, if you guys want to come to it, it's in July
20th, I think.
Damn, Christian.
We're still
coming in
on
hot.
The final details. So if you want a little memo, shoot us a message. You can find me on Instagram at Christian the Deadhead.
And you can always find me on Instagram at michael.frank___, or go to our website at frankoliverco.com under additional resources to read more about this podcast and others. See you. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.